Quick note before we get started with today's episode, I'm running my annual end of the year podcast survey, and it takes about a minute to take. Your feedback helps shape future episodes of Hawaii's Best, including topics I cover, the guests I have on, and when episodes come out. There's also a chance to win a $50 Amazon card as a thank you for your time in taking this survey. You'll find the link in the show notes below or by going to hawaiisbesttravel.com/survey. Mahalo for helping make the podcast better. In this episode, you'll discover 15 surprising facts about Hawaii that will completely change how you see the islands. We'll reveal the surprising truths most visitors never hear, including a phenomenon that makes your shadow disappear and a mistake many travelers make when planning their trip. Get ready to uncover these amazing facts about Hawaii that can actually help prepare you for your next trip to Hawaii. Aloha and welcome to Hawaii's Best, the podcast helping you plan an unforgettable trip to Hawaii. I'm your host, Brian Murphy, the owner and creator of Hawaii's Best Travel. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this episode. If you're listening when this episode was released, tomorrow's Christmas. And if you celebrate Christmas, I just want to say I hope you and your family have an amazing time. I hope that it's restful. And as we all look back on this past year, I hope that it's filled with gratitude and with hope as we go into the new year. Today's episode, I wanted to give you, I guess, kind of a Christmas present. I don't know. But this is an episode that was released earlier this year to just our members only subscribers. I just wanted to share this episode with everyone, and I hope you enjoy it. If you are curious about joining our members only subscription, it starts at $5 a month, and you get more direct access to me. You get a certain percentage off of one-on-one consulting for your Hawaii trip planning. Plus, you get unreleased episodes like this one that I'm going to be starting up again in 2026. There's going to be at least 2 unreleased episodes per month to our members only subscribers. So thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoy this episode. Today, we're talking about 15 surprising facts about Hawaii. Some of these I didn't know as I was researching. Maybe some of these you might know, but I guarantee you all 15 of these you're not going to know. Some of them are just fun to know, just random facts about Hawaii. But some of these will help you if you are planning a trip to Hawaii. So we're going to just go right into it. And let's start with fact number 1. Now, when you think about the world's tallest mountain, you usually think about Mount Everest. That's usually what comes to mind. It's over 29,000 feet above sea level. Definitely impressive. But here's what most people, maybe you already know this, but a lot of people don't about Hawaii, is that Mauna Kea on Hawaii's Big Island is actually the tallest mountain in the world when you measure from the base to the peak. So from its base on the ocean floor to its summit rises over 33,000 feet. That's more than 4,000 feet taller than Everest when measured that way. The reason you don't hear about this is because most of Mauna Kea is underwater. What you see above the sea level is only about 14,000 feet. But if you're measuring a mountain's true height from bottom to top, Mauna Kea wins. And it's a massive shield volcano that built itself up from the ocean floor over millions of years. And this brings us to fact number 2, is that this might seem impossible at first, but you can experience snow and beach weather on the same day in Hawaii, specifically on the Big Island of Hawaii. So to do this, you wake up early and you drive to the summit of Mauna Kea at nearly 14,000 feet above sea level, where temperatures can drop below freezing and snow falls on Mauna Kea regularly during the winter months. You can literally build a snowman. We were there a couple Decembers ago, and you can see that there was snow. Unfortunately, that trip, we didn't make it past the visitor center because of the vehicle we were in. But after you get past the visitor center, you drive up and you can experience the snow. Then after that, you drive back down, maybe grab some lunch, and you're off to Incredible Beach on either Kona side or Hilo, west or east side. So there's really no other place in the United States that offers this kind of climate variety in such a small area. Where I live in Southern California, I can get to the beach with no traffic in 30 to 40 minutes, and I can get up to the mountains in probably about an hour. So that definitely is possible, but it's completely different than going to a beach in Hawaii. So this is something that's actually really fun and doable within a single day without eating up your entire day. Fact number 3 is that Hawaii is the most isolated population on Earth. Honolulu is about 2,400 miles from San Francisco. That's the closest major city on the continental U.S. This isolation affects everything about life in Hawaii. Food costs are more because everything has to be shipped in, at least a lot of the things. I think the last stat I saw was like at least 85% of food has to get shipped in. Fresh produce that you can take for granted on the mainland becomes expensive. For example, a gallon of milk that costs $5 in Southern California might cost $8 to $9 in Hawaii. The isolation also creates a unique culture. So when you're that far from everywhere else, you develop your own way of doing things. You might become more self-reliant. You create stronger community bonds because your neighbors are really all you have. And this isolation means Hawaii feels genuinely different from anywhere else in the U.S. Obviously, it's this remoteness that makes Hawaii unique, but really at the core of it all is the Hawaiian people and their culture. Now, when most people think of Hawaii, they think of it as one big island. A lot of people think that it's Honolulu Island or the only island is Oahu. And this brings us to our 4th fact is that Hawaii is actually made up of 8 main islands, and each one has its own personality. You've got the Big Island, officially Hawaii Island, which is where you find active volcanoes. And then there's Oahu, which has Honolulu, the capital city of Hawaii. And it's where most tourists visit, like Waikiki. Maui is famous for its beaches and Rotohana, Haleakala. Kauai is called the Garden Isle because of its lush landscapes and incredible raw nature. And the smaller islands of Mauna Kea, known for its sea cliffs, and it's called the Friendly Isle. It's kind of old Hawaii. And Lanai, which used to be a pineapple plantation, is just off the coast of Maui. And Niihau, which is privately owned and off limits to most visitors. And then you have Kaho'olawe, which is uninhabited and was actually used for target practice during World War II. So that island is still trying to be rehabilitated. Each island formed at different times from the same volcanic hotspot. As the Pacific Plate moved northwest, new islands formed while older ones moved away from the hotspot. That's why the Big Island has active volcanoes while the older islands like Kauai and Niihau to the northwest are dormant. Fact 5 is kind of random and surprising. This one I didn't realize is that despite being surrounded by thousands of miles of ocean, Hawaii has no seagulls. Well, at least not naturally anyway. You might find one occasionally or as a rare visitor that got blown off course, but there are no established populations of seagulls anywhere. This is actually unusual for any location surrounded by ocean, and most coastal areas around the world have seagulls of some kind. But Hawaii's isolation means many common seabirds never made it there naturally. Instead, Hawaii has its own unique seabirds like the Hawaiian goose called the nene, which is actually the state bird. Our 6th fact, Hawaii's state gem is black coral, and it's the only state gem in America that's actually an animal. So when you think of gems, you think of stones, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, but black coral isn't a stone at all. It's made up of tiny animals that live in colonies deep underwater. These microscopic creatures build hard skeletons as they grow, and over time, these skeletons form the branching tree-like structures we call black coral. The living coral itself can be almost, any color: white, red, orange, brown, green, yellow, but the skeleton they leave behind is black, which is where the name comes from. Hawaiian black coral grows slowly in deep waters, sometimes 200 to 300 feet below the surface, and it takes 50 years or more to mature. All right, fact number 7. This shows you how advanced Hawaii was even back in the 1800s. Iolani Palace had electricity 5 years before the White House did. Iolani Palace in Honolulu on the island of Oahu was wired for electricity in 1886. The White House didn't get electricity until 1891. This happened because King Kalakaua was fascinated by technology and innovation. He traveled the world and saw what was possible, and when he built Iolani Palace, he wanted it to be the most modern palace on Earth, and it definitely was. All right, our eighth fact explains why one of Hawaii's most famous landmarks is called Diamond Head. British sailors in the 19th century were exploring the crater and found what they thought were diamonds. They got excited thinking they discovered a diamond mine, but what they actually found were calcite crystals, which have no value at all. But the name stuck, and Diamond Head, one of the most recognizable landmarks in Hawaii, is named after a case of mistaken identity by sailors who thought they struck it rich. But the official name of Diamond Head is Leahi. The ninth fact, Hawaii is the only U.S. state where coffee, cacao, and vanilla are grown commercially. Kona is famous for coffee, but what you might not know is that Hawaii also produces chocolate and vanilla. The climate is perfect for these types of crops. Nowhere else in the U.S. can grow all three commercially. So when you visit Hawaii, you can actually tour farms that grow these crops. You can see coffee plants, cacao trees, and vanilla orchards all in the same state. And our 10th fact about Hawaii is the Hawaiian language itself. The Hawaiian language is made up of 13 characters. So that is 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and 7 consonants, H, K, L, M, N, P, W. And there's also something called the okina, which is a glottal stop that looks like an apostrophe. Before missionaries arrived in 1820, Hawaiian was only spoken, never written down. The missionaries created the written form of Hawaiian using these 13 characters. This makes Hawaiian one of the shortest alphabets in the world. But what's interesting is how this affects Hawaiian words. Every syllable ends in a vowel, and you never have 2 consonants next to each other as well. Part of that is why Hawaiian words have that flowing, musical, just beautiful sound to them. Our 11th fact takes us to one of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth, and that is the sea cliffs on Molokai are the highest in the world. These cliffs rise 3,315 feet straight up from the ocean on Molokai's northern coast. What makes these cliffs so spectacular isn't just their height. They're a deep emerald green color, and during wet seasons, you can see waterfall cascading down the entire face. And the only way to really appreciate their scale is from a helicopter or boat tour. Our 12th fact is about a phenomenon that happens nowhere else in the U.S. It's called Lahaina Noon, and it's when objects cast no shadow at all. This happens because Hawaii sits just south of the Tropic of Cancer, and twice a year, the sun passes directly overhead at solar noon. And when this happens, vertical objects like flagpoles, street signs, and even people cast no shadow. I just think about that song by Oasis, Cast No Shadow. Anyways, did you hear they're reuniting? I'm stoked about it, but if you're an elder millennial, maybe you're excited like I am. Anyways, the science is simple. For the sun to pass directly overhead, you need to be in the tropics, and Hawaii is the only U.S. state in the tropics, so that's the only place in America where you can see this happen. The phenomenon gets its name from Lahaina, which obviously is a town in Maui, where people first started paying attention to it. And you can predict exactly when it happens. In Honolulu, it occurs around May 26th and July 15th each year. But the dates might change slightly depending on which island you're on, but it's always sometime late May or mid-July. And one note about Lahaina, some of Lahaina has reopened. Front Street has not reopened. And it's obvious if you are visiting on the island of Maui, which locations and which sites are open and available for visitors. Restaurants, luau's are available. But please be mindful and please be aware and respectful of the places that are currently off limits. Fact number 13, Hawaii is the southernmost state in the United States. The southernmost point is Kalae, or South Point, on the Big Island of Hawaii. You can drive there and stand on the literal edge of America. What's interesting is that this spot is closer to the equator than it is to any other major U.S. city. South Point is about 1,400 miles from the equator, but it's over 2,000 miles from Los Angeles. Our 14th fact is crucial if you're planning a trip to Hawaii, and that is the weather is warm year-round, but microclimates change everything. You might think Hawaii is just hot and sunny everywhere, and that's just not true. You can experience desert conditions, rainforests, and even snow all on the same island. For example, the Big Island has 10 of the world's 14 climate zones. This means you need to pack differently than for most tropical destinations, and you want to bring layers. So if you're visiting higher elevations like we talked about earlier, you'll need to layer if you're going up to the mountains because it's going to be cold up there. You might get snow like on Mauna Kea. The windward sides of the islands get most of the rain, and the leeward sides are much drier. So one side of an island might get 200 inches of rain per year, like in Hilo, while the other side gets only 20 inches. Our 15th and final fact that might surprise you about Hawaii is Hawaii has a cowboy heritage that most people have never heard about. Parker Ranch on the Big Island was founded in 1847 and spans about 250,000 acres. It's one of the largest cattle ranches in the United States, and even today, it's still one of the largest. Hawaiian cowboys are called paniolo, and they have a unique history. In about the 1830s, Mexican vaqueros were brought to Hawaii to teach Hawaiians how to handle cattle, and the Hawaiians adapted these skills and created their own cowboy culture. And a quick side note, I love paniolo slack key guitar. I just sometimes when I do my walks, I put that on and it's just so relaxing. You can still see this heritage today. There are rodeos in Hawaii and paniolo culture is alive and well. All right. And now for just a quick fun bonus facts I wanted to throw out there. Number one is macadamia nuts aren't native to Hawaii. They're actually from Australia and were first introduced in the early 1800s. Hawaii just became really good at growing them commercially. And another quick bonus fact is that about 22% of Hawaii's population identifies as Native Hawaiian. This is according to the 2020 U.S. Census. Well, I hope that these 15 facts show you that Hawaii is far more unique, complex, and interesting than maybe you have realized or most people have realized. It's not just about the beaches, volcanoes. It's a place where you can experience the world's tallest mountain, highest sea cliffs, a phenomenon that happens nowhere else in America, and a culture that blends influences from across the Pacific. So if you know somebody who is planning a trip to Hawaii, or maybe they love Hawaii as much as you, please share this episode with them. So thanks so much for listening. And until next time, as always, live with aloha. Mahalo for listening to this episode of Hawaii's Best. To stay up to date on future episodes, hit follow on your podcast app. Hawaii's Best is a production of Shorebreak Media Group with editing by Easy Podcast Solutions and music courtesy of our friends Stick Figure.